How many of you been incarcerated? What would you say if I told you that every last one of you may, probably are, and will continue to be incarcerated right now? To talk about mental incarceration. Mental incarceration. There's more, but I want to start there. Man created jails believing he can lock away the dangers, but little thought has been given to the fact that now he is imprisoned by having to guard what he fears. So who is the free man and who is the prisoner? Because the ones in the physical prison are actually freer than the ones in the mental prison. And that is because the majority of the people that are incarcerated gain acceptance to being there. So they're not bound by mentally having to go in and out of a facility and be locked down, and then not only that, responsible to guard the individual that was sent there. So there's a different concept. Now, I'm going to take you somewhere else. It says now, let's look at fear. Fear acts like prison bars in your mind. Each fear you have mentally becomes a bar in a self-made jail, imprisoning your mind, body, and soul. So in other words, if any of you are similar to me, there was a time I denied myself having fear, and I'm not talking about with substance. I wasn't one of them guys that needed substance to handle my business. Substance pretty much was a celebration for handling my business, where I come from. Growing up, I had no room for fear. When I did feel it, I had to figure out how to not feel it. If you asked me if I was afraid, I had to tell you I'm not, because it would mean that you had an opportunity to devour me or hurt me. One of the keys to freeing your mind is forgiveness of self. One of the keys of freeing your mind is forgiveness of self. Forgiveness is an act of healthy love, because there's all kinds of love out there. Again, personally, I was told I couldn't love no one until I learned how to love me. That is not my experience. I loved my homies. I loved the women, especially the one that I felt like she gave me something that I was missing all my life. And I held on to her even though it was over, and I dragged myself not realizing, because if you don't have information, that's one thing, that's called ignorance. But if you have information, that's called arrogance. But it goes right back to how you mentally enslave yourself. Because most of us refuse to surrender. Maybe you can relate it to how you know using hurts you, but because it's conditioned and it's embedded in you, it tends to seem to always show up, even when things aren't wrong, even when things aren't bad. You still make the decision. However, your subconscious mind will never forget anything it has stored up in it. I'll say it again. Your subconscious mind will never forget anything it has stored up in it. Every situation and circumstance is recorded there. It's recorded there. You want to know how I know? Let's go here. We talked about it a few times. We all know how to ride a bike. We may have not ridden a bike in a long time. But if you get on a bike, even if you wobble a little bit and you keep going, eventually what's going to happen? You're going to be riding like you never stop. Is that a good example? So here's what happens. Since everything is recorded. Resentment, condemnation of self and others, anger, grievance, grudges, revenge, drug and alcohol abuse, molestation, hopelessness, and much more are stored there. They're all stored there. These things from being your bars that help to make you incarcerated. In other words, they help create your self-made prison. Now, mind you, most of us are still trying to figure out how to live life. Most of us, with our plans, it's going to be what it is because we are not willing to change it. Not everybody comes from selling dope. There's a lot of self-made prisoners. But I want to bring it to your attention now. It's up to you to open your mind and take a look at yourself and see what you really, where you really at. Where you really at. That was just a reference piece. If you don't start unlocking these bars and open the door so you can start being free consistently, you're going to continue volunteering yourself and you want to call yourself a victim. Last time I checked, life has not improved to me for the better the way society is set up. Individuals that's talking about they got peace of mind and serenity is more than just a dollar. It's more than just the vagina or the penis. I'm telling you. I'm telling you stuff that has taken years and years and years and years and years of practice to actually identify. And the practice meant that I had to go through a lot of different emotions as well as feelings, and they weren't all good, even when it meant good for me. If you can't find yourself to live with as well as living without, you're going to probably still remain in prison. And I ain't talking about the jailhouses that they make for us when we violate the law, because we've already made a prison within ourselves. That's why a lot of us can't get out of the trauma that continues to haunt us. There are many of you that continues to tell yourself, this is all I know. And I find that most people who's had conversations with me, that is not all you know. That is all you're willing to put forth in action, because again, it lays in your subconscious. Now, do we walk around talking about this is in my subconscious? Hell no. I'm too busy trying to figure out what's my next move for what's going on in my day. So that means I'm still carrying the same old dude in my present day and not changing nothing unless we get a moment or a conversation with someone that will trigger a thought in your process to see what you're really working with. But no sooner than that conversation is over, you go right back into your cell. It's like you had a meeting with your lawyer, and after your lawyer left, you went back inside. The whole purpose of having a discussion like this is to try to wake some minds and some spirits up in here. You better figure out what do you really want to do. Because the last time I checked, checking me was more challenging than checking you. Disciplining me was more challenging than disciplining my children. But what am I really worth? I haven't arrived. I got some stuff that's going on that makes me strong, and I can work with some stuff. When I say can you live with and live without, I'm talking about I have the ability to deal with discomfort in my feelings and not throw me away no matter what I'm thinking. I'm not less of a man because if I don't move because I'm thinking ill, I'm actually empowering myself with the privilege of thinking. And you heard me say this has come over time. But how long is it going to take for you to start changing? Because we all know the common concept with the recovery language. Drugs and alcohol is just a symptom. Well, where's the rest of the symptoms? What are they? Then when recovery language introduces you to personality and character issues, you go into denial. Ain't nothing wrong with you because you already know who you are. Who I was in those broken times was sufficient because it allowed me to survive. But are you tired of surviving? If you're not, cool. Go for it. Because there's another concept to just not surviving. It's called living. And even with life being the way I described it, I can tell you one thing. 24 hours a day is how we time a day. And I can say majority of that day is not broken, tore up, miserable, crazy, and frustrating. I'm talking about like enjoying my freedom. And it don't have to be with the monetary things that most of us believe are necessary to have some peace. I got tired of locking me up. If you ever heard me say I'm black, I no longer use that as an excuse. It is not a fancy thing I'm saying to you, like, you ain't gotta like me, but I'm in love with me. Just as much opportunities, and some of you have just as much abilities as I do, but what are you doing with it? If stop using drugs was the only piece, man, I got that licked. I got that licked. Oh yeah, I'm one of them guys that tell you that I'm not using. I don't care what you believe in. You ain't gotta agree with me. I'm not using nobody's stuff. One of the most important pieces that has afforded me that is because my desire to use is lifted. I can't tell you when it got lifted, but it's lifted. But I sure wasn't running around talking about that I got a habit. I wasn't sure enough sitting around when nothing's going on talking about I'm bored, I need to smoke a joint. Or I need to have a pill, or I need to have a drink. Nah. When I tell you that, like, September the 9th comes up and it'll be 4 years without being infidelity or fraudulent or abusing women, because sometimes womanizer is a symptom. That's an achievement. But if I'm 55, why is it taking me so long to just accumulate 4 years of learning how to be committed and faithful to one relationship? And even if I ain't in one, at least with one to myself. As soon as your behind is on fire, you want to look for an instant fix, the fireman to put it out. And most of the time they do. Narcan you. Instead of sending you to jail, they send you to treatment, put you on probation. You know all that stuff. Significant others give you another chance. Children try to find a way to retrust you because they're tired of you lying to them as well as yourself. If you don't have the ability to handle what life sends you, you're going to continue falling victim to life running over you because it will not stop. Now, I'm not saying that you welcome all the things that has happened to you, but you're not going to make me believe all that has happened to you were bad. Good has happened. But what did you do with good? You lack the ability to actually manage it and handle it. It's like getting a healthy relationship and you've been wanting it, but when you get it, you destroy it because you're not equipped to handle it. I call that being immature. Psychologically, you got to figure out how are you going to not lose you. If your mental is broken or doesn't have enough information, you better start fixing it. And if you think it's a fancy spin about self-imprisonation, keep looking at where you are. You think the governor, when he makes a stay-at-home thing, is more difficult for you because the coronavirus, the COVID, made me use. No, you use. You made yourself use. When do you stop? How do you free yourself from your self-made prison? On some real talk. How? I had to find a roadmap. I had to find means to figure out how was I going to get free. So I chose therapy because I too come from ain't nothing crazy about me. Why would I sit in front of psychiatrists? All they going to try to do is let me with pills. I took a risk, you know, some word that they use called open-mindedness. Because I said this, and I meant this. I said, if this don't work, I'm out. I'm going back to what's familiar. Listen, you're talking to someone that said he's going to be buried, because I asked the homie, he's dead now. I said, yo, when I rock out, promise me you're going to put me in my gaiters, my cool cat, you're going to put the 38 in the casket, and you're going to put a roll joint right in my mouth. You're talking to someone whose belief system has changed. Those bars has been dissolved. So I took the 12 steps on top of therapy. No, I did not know I was going to transform into a better man that like I am today. Not perfect, but I'm surely improved. I'm not even done growing. And this thing took me from getting out of the concept of using for every reason. If it's raining, I'm going to use. If it's just I don't feel like doing nothing, I'm going to use. I'm going to do this because I'm using. We go to a picnic, I'm going to use. We eating dinner, I'm going to use. Using. So I used that 12-step program. I didn't know the longer and continuing to use it, it helped me go deeper inside me along with the therapist. Now, none of that stuff is going to work without my participation. And I'm going to tell you again, a surrender can't remain the same